Hello, hello. Welcome back to Two Dumbbell Blondes. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Katie. Before we get into today's episode, please don't forget to like, review, subscribe to whatever platform you're listening on. So today we have Mike Doehla. We are so excited to have you, Mike. He is going to be talking no-nonsense nutrition. So last season, Lindsay and I got lots of feedback about wanting to know more about nutrition. And so I think there's not a lack of information out there, but rather an overwhelming amount of information that can be really hard to decipher. So that's why we asked Mike to join us today. He's gonna give us all the good information.
Yes. And from what I know about Mike, he's a pretty humble guy. So I'm going to take a moment to brag for him for a little bit. So Mike is the former CEO and founder of Stronger You, which is a nutrition coaching company. And during his time there, they scaled to more than 32,000 clients over 50 countries. And at their peak, they were bringing in about 700 new members a month. And over a 3-year span, they had 830% growth. All of that being mostly word of mouth. So I don't care what industry you're in, those are freaking impressive numbers. So it makes sense while most podcasts I've heard Mike on have to do with business. They have to do with coaching other coaches and coaching business owners. But today we're going to go back in time a little bit and talk to Mike about that initial success. So he's not actively coaching clients, but if you follow him on social, you can still hear that authority of a coach. And a lot of what he puts out there is to help people still directly. And I think our listeners can really benefit from your approach. It's no BS. It's no nonsense. It's get to the point and let's get to work. So with that, Mike, thank you for being here. And like all great stories, we got to start at the beginning. So let's start with how you got into health and fitness personally, and then transition a little bit into professionally.
Yeah, well, first, you said I'm humble, but I have to correct you on one quick thing, Lindsay. You said 32,000 people, but we've helped over 50,000 in 50 countries. So, just a little update there. Maybe you're looking at the old article. But that's okay.
You know what I looked at? I looked at the article linked in your Instagram.
Oh,
so
that's
we might.
you're right. That's my fault.
Yeah.
It's time to update that.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a joke. Hopefully people don't think I'm a jerk. But yeah, I got my start in the industry because I was really sick of what I was seeing out there in the fields. Personally, I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself in terms of a career. I was in banking, then human resources. And I thought, how can I work in the field that I'm passionate about personally, which was the fitness industry? I jumped in, which was the easiest way to do it at the time in about 2013 or so. I started a little CrossFit gym in my garage at home. Nobody gave a crap. I wasn't good at it because I didn't study what I needed to do to succeed. It was in the Northeast in New York. It was cold, so can't blame people for not wanting to do it. On top of that, I did it in addition to my full-time job, so I could only dedicate about an hour a day to it. And I said, this isn't working, but I still like the field. So in my head, I'm thinking, what can I do? And I realized that the nutrition part was such a missing piece for people. Not only were they confused, they didn't know how to do what they did know, or they didn't know how to do what they finally learned was necessary for results, whether fat loss, performance, muscle building, whatever. And I figured I like my cell phone and internet forums and Facebook, and maybe I'll just talk about this online. So I started doing that. I started giving information. I got some certifications, and I just got some buy-in from the right people at the right time. And I'm credited with a lot of like no nonsense approaches to this stuff, but I want to emphasize our customer service was outstanding. We were world class all the time. We didn't market. We gave people a good experience and good results, and they started to multiply like gremlins with water, and we were all over the place. We had about 100 coaches lifetime, and then I sold the company in 2021 to the parent company of Anytime Fitness, and now I'm just a retired dad who loves pickleball. Like, family. Yeah.
We might have to have him back on for pickleball specific episode, but we're going to stick with nutrition on this one. So coming back to you getting started with CrossFit, very similar. I started in the industry by me personally in CrossFit. with that, what did you find that people were getting wrong with nutrition? Because I remember when I was in it and it was paleo, or it was
Yeah.
kind of one of the
Yeah.
schools of thought of like, I'm working so hard that I can kind of eat whatever I want and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's both of those things were the big thing. Like one of my faults, I think, is I talk about luck and circumstance way too much, and I don't give myself or the story enough credit. But the reality is, we came into this flexible dieting approach, which is kind of like you eat the amount your body needs to, I guess, get the goal you want, whether it's fat loss, performance, or muscle building, and the foods you actually do enjoy. Now, obviously, moderation is important. You can't eat, 7 donuts a day, but maybe you can have one. So I came into this at the tail end of paleo when people were like, wait, I'm I'm not getting the results I want. I'm working hard. I'm eating clean and nothing's happening. And I'm like, hey, because how many calories does clean have? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you can overeat good quality foods, but I don't know if that was really the thing. I think it's people are just not consistent with it. Like when I did paleo, I was crushing it 4.5 days a week. And then I was getting drunk and ending up at the diner at 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturdays. So it's like, that's not uncommon for a lot of people, especially people that work hard. They think they can just bust their butt and work off these calories. And it's not the reality. It's a lot easier to eat 500 calories than it is to burn it. I don't want to make people think that they have to work out extra hard to earn these calories, but the math is a reality. And that's like, my no nonsense approach is like, I'm not going to skirt around that information. I'm going to say like, hey, uh, if you want to eat the way you want to eat, you probably need to work out 25 hours a week. How does that sound? And people are like, I have a job, I have kids, I have hobbies, I have friends, and I like to go to bed.
So you
So,
got to change one of those two things.
right. And what is it? It's going to be,
Right.
just cut the calories a little bit. And here's how to do it. And we got people to do what they always struggled with. And we made the experience great. We gave them results, and the rest is history.
So how did you do that right away when you launched this business? What was it, app based? Was it one-on-one coaching via, I mean, back in, what'd you say, 2013?
Yeah. So when
We
I
didn't
got
have
into
all
the
this
nutrition,
fanciness.
yeah, when I got into the nutrition, it was 2015, April. I
Okay.
just had a spreadsheet. So I had a coach, Trevor Cashy. If people don't know him, you should find out about him. Awesome. He was like, dude, you could probably do this. Like, you know what you're talking about. Just try. And I created a spreadsheet. I had people track their macros, the calories, steps, sleep, activity, like feelings of hunger, stress, all this stuff. And they would basically they could text me whenever they wanted, which was and still is, I think, super controversial in the coaching space. And part of my reasoning for that was not so much what I wanted to do as a business. Because if you're the business, you don't want to do all these little things. You want to get paid to do what you want to do. But coaches forget that we have to do what the customer wants and needs. And one of the biggest issues in the nutrition space is people aren't accessible. So when somebody buys a nutrition book or whatever, or even an app now, like there's no one there to talk to. And I was like, well, I'm going to be that thing. I've always had my cell phone in my hand talking on Facebook and in internet forums on every topic. So why not just make that part of my job? So I was just super accessible, and they would email me their spreadsheet every week. I would give them updates. I would answer their questions. I would ask them questions. And I had a super engaged Facebook community where I made that into my office. Like I was just in there all day. And as we grew, the value of the CEO knowing the customers and knowing their problems and being present and basically like being the influence of the brand was so impactful, because we people would start to see like, wow, this company's getting big, and this guy isn't off in his office with his head buried in some like business analytics. The business analytics is the feelings and the results of the members and their problems. And when I could see all this stuff, and I think this was maybe my superpower in the business. Again, I feel bad saying that because I want to be humble, right? I think I was just really good at seeing what the customers were dealing with and knowing how to get them to solve those problems. And it was always, always, always so much simpler than they expected.
Well, and I hear more you cared less about it wasn't just a business for you, it was
Yeah.
those relationships and it was truly helping the other individual. And sometimes we forget when we do start businesses, we think about the money and we think
Yeah.
about, but when you are in an industry like this, and I mean, very similar to why Lindsay and I started this podcast, we wanted to cut the bullshit.
Yeah.
There's so much bad information out there and to really truly help people because it is an overwhelming, it's an overwhelming journey to embark on.
Right.
So
Yeah, something you kind of hit on there, which I've heard from you before, and I love it. I want you to go a little deeper on is you talked about meeting what the customer wants and needs. I think you do a good job of hearing them in their wants, but then
Mhm.
also being like, but this is what you need,
Yeah.
and you coin yourself as a detective. And I've even
Yeah.
used this with some of my clients now. Like my job is not to have all the answers for you. My job is to take in the information and help be a detective with you on this journey to figure out what's missing, what's going wrong. Because I think as coaches, and even if we're coaching ourselves, we like to avoid the things that maybe it actually is. So I want to hear talk more about that, like when that came for you that you're like, you know what, I'm a detective and like let's investigate together.
Yeah, I don't know. That could have been something I picked up from Trevor because he was so good at like not telling me exactly what the answer was or what I needed to hear, but basically leading me to the answer. And they call it the Socratic method of problem solving. Like when someone would say, I need a high protein frozen meal. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And I know what they mean. They want something quick. But why do you need something quick? Because maybe you were messing around some other part of the day and you could have prepped something and thrown it in a crock pot. So like you always I believe it's like an awareness thing, right? We love that book by Anthony DeMello, Awareness. Like it will blow your mind. But it's like when you're aware of what's actually happening and you're like, all right, I'm gonna like table my feelings about this thing because I have a feeling almost every moment of every day that I want to change. I am not happy where I am. And all I need to do is face the music one more time and say, I am kind of full of crap about my nutrition and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I'm not saying it's easy. I think being in shape and being healthy in today's environment is one of the hardest things a human being can do. So I want to give people a little bit of grace there. But I also want to say there's a lot of silly things that people are doing and they're not willing to say, maybe I need to change this thing.
Why do
Maybe
you why do you think it is so hard? Like right now specifically.
people look at what's going on, right? Like people don't make enough money to afford what they need to afford. People's lives revolve around their jobs and their children. And I'm not saying these things are wrong because my life revolves around some of these things too. So it's like you take care of what you need to take care of to get through the day and to live. And you're programmed with a brain that doesn't know what environment we're in now. It still thinks we're these prehistoric humans that need these constant nudges to eat and survive so that we can reproduce. It's the strangest mix of being in the wrong place at the wrong time with what we're dealing with upstairs. So you have this environment that has, you know, every single delicious food you could ever imagine that's perfectly engineered to make you want to eat it because it's going to make you feel good and make you feel happy when maybe most of your day was a little bit rough because you didn't want to be at work dealing with the customers. You didn't want to be at work dealing with your boss. Oh, great. Your kid didn't sleep at daycare. Now they're going to be crazy at night. Maybe your husband's being a jerk. So there's like all these things that are just like, here, I know you have these problems. Eat these Oreos. They're going to make you feel good. And they do.
yeah.
Like it works. So how can you stop this? You stop this by like maybe not buying it, maybe by talking to your boss, maybe by, I don't know, put on the movie for your kid when they're grumpy. I know parenting advice is don't use screens too much, but I think a lot of modern day parenting advice is like a lot of modern day clean eating advice. It's like you might have a parenting disorder at this point because you're afraid to go cook a healthy meal because your kid can't chill out for 5 minutes, like or 20 minutes, whatever it takes. Put the movie on. Like
Right.
so many things that we can do in a structured way to eat a little bit better. But it does take like that origin story of becoming a better eater is like what does your life have to look like now to become a better eater? And it's probably not like everyone just thinks, oh, food, I have to eat different food. It's like, okay, you know that. You always knew what you were probably supposed to eat. but you aren't doing it.
Well,
You
and I
know why.
think that some people, like when you talk about all of those things, there two things come to my mind. One, mm, so many people didn't see it modeled for them. So like they're used to, when I have stress, this is the way that I cope with it
Yeah,
because it's what I saw my parents or my authority figures doing. And then secondly, it's hard for when you make the decision to lead a healthier life, you have to be a little selfish. And
yeah,
that's really uncomfortable. You're talking about like, go let the kids sit in front of the TV and watch. You're not a bad parent because of it. You're
right.
taking care of yourself, but that's really uncomfortable. So not only is it like the behaviors, it's a truly a mind shift that it takes time to unwind all of those
Yeah.
things.
You have to become a different person. Like it's
Yeah.
and that's hard because people
And you
don't,
have to want to do that.
yeah, they
Like
don't want to give
truly
up
want that.
their identities. And it's like, well, I don't know. Like being healthy and in shape is I don't think there's a single person that wouldn't want that lifestyle. It's just
Mhm.
not easy to get.
Right.
Yeah, that's something that with clients, they have their current habits and behaviors and they came from somewhere and they served them at some point. So like a good
Yeah.
example is when we had COVID and people started having a glass of wine every night. Like at
Yeah.
that point, maybe that served you and that was your period of life, but now they don't stop and think, why do I still do that? Or do I need that? Or is there a better way?
Yeah.
And so I think just what you talked about with coaching, we're looking at the full picture. We're looking at how are you going about your day? And we're starting to ask questions like, one, what are we aware of we're even doing? And two, what options do we have that are different? Because I think that change is like, it's one thing to know. And I always tell people it's not the education, it's the
Yeah.
implementation. Like we know, and honestly, we probably have too much information out there. So now it's not a matter of knowing, it's a matter of doing and like taking action. And that's when you truly learn versus just reading something on social or an article or whatever it may be.
Right. That's
So
why I disagree with a lot of coaches that are like, people don't know what to do. They need to be educated. It's like, give me the average person off the street and I hand them a grocery cart and I say, fill this thing with healthy food. Like they're going to fill it pretty good. There might be some things in there. I'll be like, yeah, that's, nonsense. But for the most part, they know what to do. They just don't do it because they don't have the structure or the information or they just haven't been taught like how to do it.
Mhm. So after coaching these 50,000 or working with 50,000 people, what's like the first um what's the biggest thing that allows people to see that long-lasting success?
Yeah, I think it really is identifying as a different person. Like they come from one place that led them to a place needing to be fixed in some way. And you say, well, that is the complete opposite of where you want to be. And I think that's kind of it's almost like a Halloween mask. They put on a health mask for a couple months and then they're like, oh, after this diet, I'm going to just take it off. And it's like you have to become this person. You can't just wear a costume for a little bit. And I think that's the stressful part for people and the hard part for people because it involves people around them. It might it might be at in conflict with their friend group or even their spouse. Like we've seen crazy things. We've seen marriages end because one person decided to do something about their health and the other person was dragging them down. So it's just people want to stay asleep, right? They don't want to wake up to this stuff and realize that it does take a lot of change. And I don't think they believe that they can do it because there's so much bullshit out there now that's like, you don't have to change. You shouldn't change. Just accept what you're doing. And it's like, okay, I really love the message of accepting everybody. But there's science to this thing. And you cannot tell me that someone that has 100 extra pounds of body weight is going to be as healthy as someone who does not years down the line. Maybe today on paper they are, but I can almost guarantee you that every person that would shed that 100 pounds would be a happier and healthy human long term. And that
Mhm.
may be a controversial statement.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And oftentimes people hide behind that because they don't want to make that change.
They don't.
So,
I
yeah.
Yeah.
wonder if a specific movement has less traction now after the release of weight loss drugs, which I am personally a fan of. I think they're great for people because this is so challenging. I don't think
Mhm.
they should rely just on drugs and alone without lifestyle changes because we know how that goes. But We have a big problem in this
But
country.
I think with just on that same topic, I think there's a lot of power in someone starting to feel better about themselves.
Mhm.
And so when you talk about the weight loss drugs and Ozempic and all those things, it allows someone to start to feel the way that you feel when you look in the mirror and you like what you see. And I mean, that like psyche part of it's so
Right.
powerful. And you're right, it does need to continue to evolve into a truly healthier lifestyle. But doing it the old fashioned way, it's hard. I mean, you don't
Yeah.
see change sometimes for 3 months, 6 months, and when before you really realize, like, oh, I feel
Yeah.
better, I look better. So, yeah, I agree with that.
Right. It might get them in the gym. They might maybe drop 40 pounds and be like, okay, I'm ready for the gym. And
Yeah,
all our Fit Pro buddies will be like, no one's judging you in the gym. They're all focused on themselves. It's like, did you forget people watching is a thing?
yeah,
Everybody's looking at everybody.
yeah.
You shouldn't really care, but people do. So
Yeah.
I can't blame people. Like, we go to the gym these days and there's all these like the broccoli hair kids with the videos everywhere. And you're like, I'm looking in there with my ankle socks and I'm like, damn, I'm out of date over here. Like some one of these kids they probably
No,
had
ankle socks are in, Mike.
yeah, I don't know. Like, they'll look at my shoes and be like, his shoes are cool, but his socks are silly. I'm like, oh,
Well, that's
how
where you're
did this
going wrong.
happen?
You're not supposed to wear shoes. You're supposed to wear like Crocs or Birks. You don't wear actual shoes with your socks, just
Yeah.
sandals, slip-ons. Um, but a lot of what you're talking about too, which, I think we are in the industry for a reason. We are different than most of our clientele in Gen Pop. So when you're talking about this short-term pain for long-term pleasure or vice versa, short-term pleasure for long-term pain. And I think a lot of people get caught up in it's going to be painful for a little bit before I see
Right.
results. And I think things like the weight loss drugs can help push that timeline a little bit so they feel like the efforts they're putting in are worth it versus someone that's like, oh, I'm doing all the things and nothing's happening. Then that's when you get frustrated and it's a cycle, right? Like I give up, I
Yeah.
try again, I give up, I try again.
And that's the hard part for people is again going back to the awareness is they're probably not doing as well as they think. So I mean, I think we've all seen a number of people that are like, I'm trying so hard, I'm in a calorie deficit and no results. It's like, well, if I followed you around and rung a little bell every time you did something that put you out of that deficit, like would you identify it? Because I swear my crazy brain, I think of stuff like this. I'm like, I'm gonna rent an Airbnb for 2 weeks and I'm gonna pack it with people who claim nothing worked for them. I'm gonna have a calorie controlled environment. We're gonna go for walks, we're gonna work out, we'll all tell stories and laugh and cry together every night. And they're gonna lose weight. Because I'm so sick and tired of people saying that nothing works. It's like, no, just because you bought every program and every service doesn't mean that you did everything.
I'm assuming you've read Atomic Habits.
Yes, I don't remember
Okay.
a ton, but yeah, I read a lot and I forget a lot. And part of me, I had this
Me
thought
too.
yesterday. I was like, well, maybe there's nothing really memorable in these books. And that's just me trying to justify why I forget so many
Yeah.
things.
I feel like you either have to read them again or put them into action right away. And
Yeah,
that's how you remember. But going back to that, he talks about what you hit on is it's the identity,
yeah,
right? So it's one, believing you deserve better because you're not going to do the things if you don't believe you deserve better. And two, every time you do something, either for it or against it, you're casting votes for your future self.
right.
So if you can't get in alignment with, oh, I get up and I'm someone that walks in the morning, like that's just who I am, that's my
Yeah,
identity, then those habits are going to be harder to change. I don't like there's things that we do that we don't even think about
yeah,
because at some point we made that decision because it's casting that vote for that future self of who we want to be versus some of our clients or people that are dealing with, I need to lose weight, I need to get in better shape, whatever.
yeah.
They don't naturally default to those things. It does take that much more effort and thought to do it.
Right. We're programmed a certain way over many, many, many years. And we're asking a lot of people to just break that overnight. Like it's not going to happen. So even coaches, they're like, why don't people follow? They paid me money. It's like, why? I think you should reverse that and say, I can't believe people follow. Like that's incredible that they're doing this. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I think maybe in Atomic Habits, like I'm sure instant gratification, delayed gratification come up. And one of my points about that for people, because they always want the instant gratification of like scale drops and heavier weights and different looks and mirrors. It's like, what if you found instant gratification in doing the right thing for your future self? That every single day like many moments a day, you can get instant gratification. So
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
We don't think about it like that though.
right.
So, Mike, I know you're in the online space and within the nutrition world, like you're well known. What do you find today that is helpful? Like, because there is helpful stuff out there. And what do you
Yeah.
find is, please, can we do away with that and not anymore?
It's a
Yeah.
good question.
What's helpful is people that I think are talking about the things that people actually want to change, which is like the fat loss. Like I think people are scared to talk about it now. And that's what I want to change. I want people to, these really good coaches, to be brave enough to talk about the actual issues at hand. Everyone is in this mode of like, "Ah, I can't say that because this one colleague I know who's really popular said I shouldn't say that and I want their approval, so I'm not going to say that." And that's at the expense of actually helping people and growing your business because our customers, they want to lose weight and feel a little bit better for the most part. That's not the only way in the world to be happier and healthier and feel good about yourself. But if in what business does it make sense for a customer to come to you and say, I want this thing, and you say, you don't want that thing, you want this thing. And it's like, no, they don't want what you think they want. You need to sell them what they're coming for and give them so much more. And that's what we were always so good at. We realized that this person wants to lose 30 pounds. Cool. We'll help them with that. In addition to that, we're going to give them a better relationship with food. They're going to get education that they never even knew about regarding all these feelings and all these reasons behind everything. And they're going to be left surprised and delighted. Whereas so many coaches now are like, just giving some like nonsensical like reasoning for just eat like another version of eat clean. Eat protein at every meal. Eat vegetables at every meal. No shit, man. How's that working out for people? It's not working out for people. Why don't you be brave to say like you can have a donut. You can do this. But I know you want to lose fat, so here's how to do it. But everyone's like, I think everyone, coaches and clients, are scared to say they want fat loss because it's been so shamed that everyone's like, I want health. And it's like no one can see that. So it's hard to sell. It's hard to make people happy if they're a customer because they're not getting constant blood work and saying, I am healthy. So you have nothing to show for what you're doing as a coach. So I wish people would chill the hell out about all that and be like, listen, my customers, they want to lose fat. I'm going to help them do it in a good, sustainable way. And I'm going to educate the hell out of them and give them a good experience.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Preach.
Yeah.
I
It's
say that
frustrating.
at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Because I help a lot of coaches and they're like, Mike, I can't get clients. And I look at their page and I'm like, one, I don't know you're a coach. All I see is information. Two, you're dancing around on reels, making a fool out of yourself. I'm not buying anything from you like that. I don't know who you've helped because you don't share anything. And it doesn't have to be a picture. It could be a text message from a client that's like, thank you, Lindsay, for changing my life. This program has been the greatest thing ever. But people don't want to post that because it messes with the algorithm. I have to please the algorithm. It's like, or you can let the 35 people that give a shit see that, and maybe a couple of them will be your customer because people go
Well,
on social media for entertainment. Like, they're not buying your stuff because all you're doing is entertaining them. Maybe you just don't do what the algorithm wants you to do and you just connect with them.
the people that are truly authentic and speak what they believe in, and it's okay for us to all not believe and preach the same thing,
Right.
but the people, when you are loud and proud about what you stand for and who you are, that's where you don't need 1 million people to buy into you. You
Right.
need a couple. And so being just real with it. So with that, Mike, you post a ton of amazing content. What resonates the most with people when you look to see what's been shared the most or liked the most or saved the most? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, it's usually the stuff with a little more like fire and passion behind it, which are funny enough. Like I'm not good when I'm like, I'm gonna write about this on this day and time. Like I will not be inspired. So like the ones that I've posted that have had the best success, which for me, I'm not a big social media like I have a decent following, but I don't get a lot of love like some of these accounts. So like for me, like 600 likes is a ton. Like 150 is like average. So the stuff that gets shared and liked the most is the stuff that I'm like in a passionate moment. I pick up my phone and I just type words and hit send. I don't think about the time I post it. I don't think about really what it looks like, because it really is like most of my stuff now is just typed in the stories and then I screenshot it. Like I don't waste time in Canva right now. Now that's probably not good advice for someone that wants to grow social media, but it might be good advice for someone who just wants to get their thought out there to the people that care. And I have this insecurity sometimes where I'm like, man, I should have so many more followers. So many more people should know about this story. And it's like, well, I don't try to get it out there that much, because like social media is a job. Like and that's kind of the thing. Like, do people want to be coaches or do they want to be social media experts? Because like I can just post and share things and comment, or I can craft my entire social media presence into this like brand that I'm too lazy to do right now.
I think it's the whole, do you want to go wide or do you want to go deep? And I
Yeah.
think for you and what I know of your community and the people that you engage with online, it is going deep. Because even the stuff that you post, like I've been coaching for almost 14 years, and
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, damn. Like some of the stuff you
Yeah.
post, I'm like, oh, that hits me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, how does this, either affect me or how could it help me help my clients more?
Yeah. And I think one of my problems in the last couple of years has been, ironically, I've become a people pleaser, whereas I always knew that like you can't please everyone. And I'll put something out there and I'm like, oh man, I know this is going to make someone like not happy with me and they're probably never going to engage with me again. And I'm like, okay, well, fine. I could say anything and someone will like not engage with me.
And I
Yeah.
think there's polarizing for the sake of being polarizing. Like people will like put the stake in the ground of like bad seed oils or, oh, we don't eat carbs. Like they're doing it because it is getting their community. But then I think you can be polarizing just because you're so passionate about it. But like you said, when you post and you get the most engagement, it's the stuff that's in the moment. You're like, this is frustrating or this is like insightful for me personally. And now I'm just going to share it. And some people are going to love it and some people are going to leave it. And I
Right.
think that you come from a good place with it. You're not doing it to sell anybody on anything or to like, this is the only way, but you're just real. Like
Yeah.
you just, like I said at the beginning, you cut through the BS and you put it out there.
Yeah. And I know like when I talk to coaches and they're like, I can't get a client, I'm like, okay, well, let's think about this. Like, are you boring? Are you too shy to get out there? Which I'm a shy dude. Like I didn't want to do some of the things I did, but I'm like, this is the difference between success and failure, between spending your life in a job that you hate versus a rewarding job that you love every day. And you won't go to a coffee shop and just stand in line and have a conversation with someone that like you could say anything. And the most successful coaches I know who don't rely online are the ones that are just personable people. So I always thought about like, how can you get yourself out there? And it really is like people will, just like our clients that won't do the little thing to get success and they'll have a lifetime of pain. Coaches won't do the little thing to get out of their shell. And they go
Mm.
online and they say things and they're like, where are my clients? Like you're fishing in a pond.
We are in a
Yeah.
relationship business, and it's
Right.
the relationship that is going to change someone's life,
Yeah.
not you just spewing out information online.
Right. People are
You got to
fishing in a
create those.
pond with 5 billion fisher people. So like,
Yeah.
Right.
what do you think's going to happen? Why
Yeah.
are they going to choose you over
It's,
all these other people?
it's easy to entertain, but you have to get them to know, like, and trust you. And
Yeah.
if those things aren't there, then they're not going to pay. They're not going to put that credit card information in.
Right. Right.
So let me ask, Mike, there's a lot of bullshit online and there's a lot of people that are spewing a lot of information. So when, like, for our listeners that are listening and they're looking at Lan, and I'm sure they're going to follow you now and other people, how do you figure out who's a legit coach? Like, what are things that you would
Yeah.
look
It's
for?
it's you have to identify what like the laws of like fat loss and fitness are. Like if people are scaring you from ingredients, you need to avoid them because the damage is in the dosage. And most of these things that people claim are bad, like the seed oils, which is just not reality. They're not bad. People start getting scared of this stuff and they follow the craziest people. And simplicity is hard to sell. I think one of the things I'm most proud of in life is being able to sell simplicity. So you just have to look at like, what are these people getting like super polarizing about certain topics? Are they conflicting with what we know to be common sense in the nutritional world, which is calories in, calories out is a reality. You need to stop fighting this. You need to stop fighting people that say hormones are not the determining factor. They are an influence. Everyone that believes or knows the calories in, calories out equation knows the importance of hormones and the influences of them. We're not saying it's not important, but we're saying we've probably helped, at my old company, if someone is like, I'm in menopause and I can't lose weight no matter what I do. Well, I have 10,000 people that are just like you that did it. Why are you the only one that can't? Well, because you snack every night and you fail to admit it. That's why. You eat out 4 times a weekend and you probably have 6,000 calories total in those meals. And that's more calories than you ate all week. This is not menopause. This is too many calories and a failure to acknowledge the issue. But I'm the jerk for saying it. Thank you.
And we're all the special snowflakes,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Like food does what food does for most people. It is there's people that think that they need some special diet plan for them because when we all grew up, our moms told us we were all so special and unique. It's like, yeah, we're humans. Like protein does what protein does. Chicken, here.
Yeah.
Oh, you want steak?
Science.
Okay. Yeah. Your body doesn't give a crap.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so what's next for you besides becoming the pickleball world champion
No,
of
that's
of
not
the
gonna happen.
world?
Don't set my sights that high. I just want to kick the asses of everyone locally. Um, I'm competitive.
Good thing
I've
we don't live by you.
Yeah, why would you kick my butt or would I?
I don't know. We'd have to see.
Yeah, but for what's next, like I don't know. I have a non-compete for almost like 627 days. So after that, maybe I come back into the field. I don't know. As of right now, I don't.
Just living
I
the
don't.
dream.
Yeah, I'm just. It's this. This is a life that people like strive to achieve, but it's kind of boring, and I love it. Like I just sit around with my kids most of the time. That's my life. Like people
That's
think
so
someone that
great.
sells a business like just kind of does all this crazy stuff. No, that's not what life is about. I just like to watch my kids grow and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Don't make
That's
me
super
cry on
cool.
podcasts.
And
I've,
play pickleball.
I've cried on podcasts before. I'm not going to do it on this one.
Well, we've had other guests cry, so you wouldn't be the first. You'd be the first guy to cry, though. So you could have like a prize here. I don't know. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. I feel like we could keep talking forever. Um, Anything else that you want to hit on or that you want to share before we do wrap up here?
I would say if you do want to lose weight, I think the most beneficial thing you can do is stop snacking. I think people are just hooked on snacks and they're like, "Oh, I'm just hungry." It's like you're not really that hungry. If you are, maybe you eat a bigger meal at mealtime, but snacking brings in so little protein, so many excess calories, so little long-term satisfaction, and a lot of it is done mindlessly, which in translation means it never happened. So,
Mhm.
yeah, the snacking thing. I'm such a big pain in the butt about it.
And it gets
It-
worse when you have kids too, because
Yeah.
then you have all the, well, I can't let it go to waste. Clean plate club,
Yeah,
right?
this sunk cost fallacy. Like, why do you have to eat it? It's no different than if it ends up in the garbage. You already paid for it. Maybe
yeah.
next
And
time,
you,
don't buy
no
that
matter
cake.
what, you underestimate what you're putting into shoving into your face. You're
100.
like, I'm just going to have a little snack. And then you're like, oh, I actually just,
Yeah.
you don't, maybe don't
Crust of
notice that you
grilled
just ate.
cheese and,
Uh-huh.
the
Mm.
Cheetos and all this stuff. It just adds up. And again, we're living in a world that it's incredibly easy to overeat. What is enough in the former human life is not enough by people's definition today. And that's a
Mm,
problem. Maybe some people actually do need 1,500 calories, 1,600 calories. You say it's not enough, which seems right, but it's just because there's so many calories in everything. So we're jaded now. Everything's a little messed
Mhm.
up.
Well, if people want to connect with you, hear more from you, learn more, have those damn moments like I do, where can they find you?
Probably Instagram. I post when I feel like it. Usually my stories are just my kids. So if you're into that, like if you like parenting stuff and you like food advice or you're a coach, like come on board.
So is it just at Mike Doehla?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Easy enough.